some others?
Yeah, and the lifespan of somebody with Parkinson's disease after diagnosis is somewhere between 7 and 15 years. Okay. They don't live very long after they're diagnosed. It's a progressive thing because they haven't changed their dietary habits and they haven't changed their supplement habits. So it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. The doctors try to treat the symptoms because they get taught in medical school that it's a genetic thing. Well, everybody in my family's got Parkinson's. Well, that's because it's not genetic. It's because they're all eating wrong things and cooking improperly and so forth. They're all using grandma's recipes. And that's why everybody's got it. It's not a genetic thing. Parkinson's disease is a simple nutritional deficiencies. And we get the symptoms to decrease in days and weeks after getting them off all the bad foods, getting them on all the good foods and supplements. And then usually in less than 3 months, that's why I always say, give me 90 days. In less than 3 months, most of the people with Parkinson's disease goes away, okay? And they'll add 25 to 50 years to their life. This is very simple. And again, this is where you need to get a hold of the
DVD set.
It's a DVD, okay? It's 2 hours and 9 minutes. And it's one of those things that'll blow your mind how much we know and how much disease we can prevent, how much disease we can reverse with nutrition. But doctors want to use drugs. And of course, people are happy to use drugs because they have health insurance. Now, health insurance only came about at the turn of the century. Before that, there was no health insurance. And doctors would milk the cow by charging you and charging you and charging you and charging you. So finally somebody said, well, let's get some insurance here and let the insurance company pay for this stuff. Okay. And that's how that happened. And it's one of those things where it's, if you get in a car wreck and you get multiple fractures and all that kind of stuff, it's a good thing that you have health insurance. Okay. And this is where the medical profession really shine. Trauma, whether it's a military, whether it's a highway accident, or somebody's in construction and falls off the ladder, kid falls off their bike and breaks their leg or their shoulder. All these things are easily dealt with both cast and all kinds of surgeries, whatever is necessary. And doctors really shine in that area. When it comes to things like Parkinson's disease, they get it all wrong. And you have to remember, emergency room doctors in America live to be 55.7. They'll live to be 55 years and 7 months. Now,
I'm almost that, doc. I'm not ready to go.
That's medical doctors, okay? Now, also, medical doctors don't do well when it comes to longevity. Medical doctors in America, white medical doctors, live to be 75.7, something like that. And the black medical doctors live to be 65. And these people, the Hunzas, that don't have one single medical doctor in their villages in the Himalayan mountains, their average lifespan is 122. Is that a genetic thing? No. But they're living in the land flowing with milk and honey. They're getting all these minerals coming down out of the mountains. And of course, it's in the streams and it looks like milk. The white powder, because the rocks being ground up at the top of the mountains by glaciers, that white powder that resulted got into the streams coming down the side of the mountains. And from, half a mile away, 2 miles away, you see this white stream coming down the side of the mountain. It looked like milk. So it's in the Old Testament. It's in the Bible. 2,000 years ago, it talked about the white milk, the land flowing with milk and honey. So why was honey in that? Because all these minerals coming down the side of the mountains, okay, irrigating the valleys and the fields, all these flowers were there. So there's more flowers, more bees, more honey. And so the land flowing with milk and honey, always because of these minerals coming down the side of the mountains. Now you have to appreciate there's some of the, I call it glacial milk, okay? There's some of this glacial milk that only have 3 minerals because that's how many minerals are in the rocks at the top of certain mountains. Some have 10 minerals, some have 25, some have 50, and so on. You need at least 75 minerals. They got to be the right ones, okay, to get maximum benefit. And all this is in the DVD, Dead Doctors Don't Lie. It's in the book, Dead Doctors Don't Lie. That's why it's a bestseller. Metabolic syndrome was in the Bible, the old Bible, 2,000 years ago. Metabolic syndrome, it wasn't called that, but it described the abdominal obesity, type 2 diabetes, and hypertension, okay? And then it's all in your head, okay? There, it's all in your head. There's over 50 different diseases you can get, more than that, maybe closer to 60 different diseases you can get. You have osteoporosis of the skull. My favorite picture, of course, and I show this probably, it bores people, but to me, it's my favorite picture. On page 6 of the book, It's All in Your Head. Okay. They take the top of the skull off at autopsy, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. And they look down at this in the brain, and the skull is a quarter inch thick. That's normal. All 12 pairs of cranial nerves can get through the tubes. The spinal cord can get through the back of the skull. The bottom one is a skull from somebody who had osteoporosis of the skull. They took the top of the skull off. They're looking down at the brain. You can see the skull is 1.5 inches to 2 inches thick, and it shuts down those tunnels that those 12 pairs of cranial nerves go through, and also where the spinal cord goes through the back of the skull, and creates these 50 different diseases. And doctors want to do surgery. They want to do 25 different drugs, okay, to deal with these situations. And of course, there's a chapter for each one of these cranial nerves. And there's a picture here of the brain, shows the 12 pairs of cranial nerves coming out, and what parts of the body are impacted when you have osteoporosis of the skull, squeezing those nerves. And then on the other page, there's 12 chapters that go along, okay, one chapter for each of those cranial nerves. And then for the spinal cord, we have the, what? It's very simple, okay? Oh, it's the information is all in a CD. There we go. It's in a CD. And so here's a set. You buy the book and the CD at the same time in a nice little project. That'll get rid of 50 different diseases that are caused by osteoporosis of the skull. Don't let doctors do surgery. Don't let them do radiation. Don't let them put you on 18 different prescription drugs, because that's how they send their kid to college.
So many of the conditions that are associated with Parkinson's are because of osteoporosis of the skull. That's what you're saying, right, Doc?
Well, there's a mixture there between osteoporosis of the skull, but the main part of Parkinson's is a loss of the myelin in the brain and spinal cord. The loss of the myelin in the brain and spinal cord. And then if you have osteoporosis at the same time, you really have a problem. You have Parkinson's plus all of.
Well, and I know from studying with you, Dr. Wallach, some of the non-motor skill symptoms, like loss of smell.
Oh yeah.
Extra salivation, having pain or cramps in your muscles and joints.
Yeah,
blood pressure changes.
You lose your sense of taste. All that goes away when you have osteoporosis of the skull.
And how about dizziness, Dr. Wallach?
Well, vision, when the skull squeezes the optic nerve, you can lose your vision gradually. Okay, you can get cataracts, you get cornea, corneal problems. You get the inside of the eye begins to slowly go away because it's not getting any nutrition, because the skull is squeezing the nerves going from the brain into the eye through the optic nerve. Okay, the eye also sends information back so you can see, okay, and interpret things whether still or moving, okay, through the optic nerve. And then the optic nerve tells the eye what to do: turn right, turn left, go up, go down. This is all controlled. But if you lose the capacity to utilize all that because your white matter of your brain's going away, doctors want to do surgery, they want to do radiation, they want to do all these drugs, and really it's just a nutritional deficiency.
Okay, so how about a change in the voice? A low voice, soft voice, would that be
Oh yeah,
because of nerves?
absolutely. That deals with the cranial nerves that deal with the throat and the vocal cords and the tongue and all that kind of stuff. We'll talk about the 7th and the 8th cranial nerves, the trigeminal nerve, so forth, all contribute to these problems when they're being squeezed or starved.
And we talked about in the beginning the tremors or the voluntary movements of the limbs, whether
Okay,
it's your
that's what
hands,
you
your
get. That's what
arms.
you get the diagnosis of Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's was a guy many years ago, okay, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, who described these tremors in certain people. Well, they weren't getting the raw materials to make the brain work properly and maintain itself properly, which then showed up with all these problems. Okay, and so since it occurred in whole families, well, it's a genetic thing because it's in the whole family. Well, no, it's in the whole family because everybody's eating grandma's recipe.
Right.
And they didn't live in the land flowing with milk and honey. Even if she had the same recipe as her twin sister, who was, say, 100 miles away, feeding the same food to their family 100 miles away, had no problems. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because they lived in the land flowing with milk and honey. And the one that had all the problems was using the same recipe, but they weren't getting the nutrients because they didn't live in the land flowing with milk and honey.
Well, in that land flowing with milk and honey, I want to just kind of do a little bit of clarification on that. Minerals do not occur in a solid blanket around the world. They're in veins, like Dr. Wallach says, like gold and silver. I like chocolate ripple ice cream. I like that analogy better. But the water that's flowing is coming from areas, and hopefully it's coming from areas like the mountains where there are more minerals that are flowing downstream.
But
And not all.
you have to appreciate that all glacial milk coming down the sides of the mountains are not the same. Some have 3 minerals because that's the only minerals are in the mountain. And then some have 5 minerals, some have 20 minerals, some have 50 minerals, some have 75 minerals. And so it depends on how many minerals are in that mountain, will be how many minerals are in the glacial milk, the land flowing with milk and honey.
And the greater the mineral